So we're back on the 1936 Harley-Davidson, the 2024 Wheels Through Time raffle bike. As you guys can see, a ton of work has gone into the motorcycle so far. When you guys caught up with us last time, we were bolting the transmission in, bolting that engine in, a grandfather cornerstone of the American motorcycle, 1936 Harley-Davidson knucklehead engine, rebuilt by hand by me right here at Wheels Through Time Museum. This thing is ready to go. Transmission, 1936, 1 year only. This stuff laid into this frame so nicely. Keep in mind, this was a whole motorcycle that was together. We took it back apart, decided to restore the bike again, especially for our annual raffle. So 36 knuckle motor dropped in. They only made about 1,600 of these engines, guys. 1000cc, single cam, overhead valve, the new high compression setup in 36, and would change the direction of motorcycling altogether. The 4-speed transmission's all laid in just perfectly, guys. And what we've done since you guys have been here last, huge amount of work to get to where we're at today. So the transmission is like I said, bolted in. The drive line is completely hooked up. We went with road model standard gearing on this bike. So you're being able to cruise down the road, 60, 65 mile an hour with ease all day on a motorcycle like this. So we got our clutch pedal and brake pedal specially CAD plated by our guys up in Michigan. Kickstands hooked up. As you guys can see, we mounted some Coker diamond tread, Goodyear replica tires, exact tires that 1936 knuckleheads debuted with back in 36. So the brakes were a huge task. All original Harley-Davidson brake stuff, 1930s brakes, incredible amount of work to make sure that they work properly, and putting these things together with a proper fit and finish, huge amount of work. All that has been done, guys. So big steps to get the bike one step closer to firing up. And I mean, so many little details go into a motorcycle like this when you're restoring it, from using the proper brake cable oilers and cable clamps, 1930s, I think that's 1928 to 1939 brake lever. As you guys can see, we've got the handlebars plumbed. So much time and effort go into making these absolutely perfect. You got your high-low beam switch, your horn button over here, spark advance, and it's important for this stuff to work just as it was intended, just as it was designed by Harley-Davidson. When you restore a motorcycle, the fit of all the parts is absolutely crucial. We want these bikes to operate with ease, and we want them to be serviceable and usable for miles and miles and miles. So this motorcycle is well on its way. So we got some ultra cool stuff happening today, guys. We're gonna be bolting on some sheet metal, rebuilding the carb, hooking up the spark advance and the throttle, maybe doing some general wiring, and if we're lucky, hooking up this exhaust. You never know, you might hear this thing fire up and run. Just in, John Dills came back and dropped off one of the most crucial parts, one of the most exciting parts of the build. They're under this towel. We're gonna show them to you here in just a minute. So getting these bolted on, it's gonna be one of those steps that now we're talking, this thing's a motorcycle and it's about ready to go. So carburetor rebuild, guys, right in front of us, pretty standard stuff. Now in 36, Harley-Davidson used a 1 1/4 inch carburetor. And with this bike, what we've decided to do is update it in a few different ways to make it a little more easy to use and to make the parts a little bit more interchangeable. And should anything ever need to be replaced, we want all parts for this motorcycle to be able to be sourced and be sourced easily. So we use the Harley-Davidson M35 linkered carburetor. This is a carburetor from, say, a 1941 to 47 knucklehead. So top of the line Harley-Davidson carburetor, really used at the pinnacle of the knucklehead production. So these things go back together real quick and easy, guys. When you've got everything laid out, it all snaps back together with relative ease. So the first step, carburetor rebuild 101, is to slide in that venturi. This one's already in, and what I'll do is drop in the main nozzle and spring, and this is what actually holds that venturi in place. So main nozzle and spring are in. Linker carburetor, very simple, easy to rebuild, almost infinitely serviceable. I started learning how to rebuild carburetors when I was a kid. It was literally the first motorcycle operation that I learned, starting out with mini bikes, riding little dirt bikes, mini bikes when I was a kid. Always need the carburetor rebuild. I mean, the thing sat any number of reasons. My dad at the old Harley shop would take little dirt bikes and mini bikes in on trade, and he'd always tell me if I could get them running, I could ride them. So early on, started rebuilding small carburetors, and didn't take long to move on to the Linkert stuff. So with these carburetors, if you can take one apart, you can put one back together. Pretty simple tools. Screwdriver, or at least a couple screwdrivers, couple different sizes, a 3/8 wrench, not too much else needed to rebuild a Linkert carburetor. Okay, there it is. So we got one half, two, 1/2, 3, 3.5. So some general settings here for these carburetors. It's a place to start. It's not a rule of thumb that that's where they're going to stay, but it's a good place to start. 3.5 rotations out on the low speed, 1.25 to 1.5 on the high speed. We get this thing fired up, and we'll tune it in from there. All right, float adjustment. I know you guys have heard us harp on this over and over. Float adjustment right at a 1/4 inch between the top of that float, right here, 1/4 inch, the top of the float to the top of the bowl, and I'm happy with where it's sitting. Does it hold a seal? Holds a seal. So we should be set. That is a rebuilt Linkert carburetor. Do it the exact same way that I did it when I was 14 years old. Oh, it all fits so good. A lot to work around in here. So, all right. Okay. Now's the fun part. Let's cut some cable, and we can get this bike to where we can twist the throttle and spark and make some motor noises. All right. Yes. Siree. Okay. A little bit of push. Uh-oh. It's a pull. Throttle. You got a push and a pull. That would have... I hope I have another one of these. Well, looks like we're gonna have to break out the bandsaw and shorten these bad boys up. And you know what? These may even be nickel plated. And if they're nickel plated, that's cool. But we're gonna have to do both of them instead of just one of them. So, oh yeah, it's pretty, man. It feels so nice. Okay, so what I'll do is I'm just gonna do it the old-fashioned way. So, get inside of here, we'll make our scribe mark. Okay, guys. In every restoration, there are obstacles. Okay, there's one. There's one. We'll do them both at the same time. Nickel will look cooler, you know?
I think that's nickel.
That is, you're right, yep. Nickel will definitely look cooler. Okay, so we're going to, I'm gonna cut those off real quick. Okay. For me, this part is so critical because you get too much back and forth play, and that's where slopping your throttle comes from. So you want this to spin with the absolute least amount of back and forth as you can, but at the same time you want no resistance because you want that throttle to spin easy. And it's feeling like it's gonna be about perfect. Oh, yes, see, and what I mean there, just a few thousandths of an inch back and forth. It's the little things, you know. You go too heavy on this cut right here, all of a sudden you're back and forth a ton there, and you've got to twist your throttle an eighth of a turn before your throttle cable even starts to move. Nice, beautiful. You can see it right off the bat. Okay. All right, so time to bolt on some more parts. We got that throttle hooked up, spark advance. We're gonna bolt the relay clamp, and then we're gonna start doing sheet metal, guys. So if you guys haven't guessed what's underneath this black sheet, oh man, it's waiting for us. We're gonna show you here in just a few minutes, and it's gonna set the tone for the entire build. I'm super excited for you guys to see it. We've never done anything like that for our annual raffle. I'm so excited. So John will be here momentarily with the fenders, and you'll see this thing starting to take shape right in front of your eyes, running in no time. So here we go. Relay, let's do this relay real quick. Here we are. We'll go ahead and pop on a Delco Remy cover. You know what? Might be kind of cool to do a chrome cover. That's an early style chrome cover. On the fly changes, guys. Sometimes when you're building stuff like this, you want absolute perfection when it comes to the way it rolled off the assembly line. Now this bike has got all of those right fits and finishes with a little bit of chrome peppered in. Things you could get done back in the day. So chrome headlight, we're running chrome exhaust instead of the standard heat black paint. Nickel plated up top here. We got some really cool other surprises for you. We're gonna be stacking on this bike as the year goes on. Small relay cover, little details like this, one of the things that gives bikes their personality. So chrome Delco Remy relay cover. This is what takes the charge from the generator, spits it back to your battery. What do we got there? Good fit. My painter John left this over at the museum last week, and I've been using the heck out of it. So usually it's a little elbow grease, but this week we're using pneumatic tools. Now this also gets a special clip here that we want to make sure is assembled properly. All right, so what do we got here? I like it. This is the part where you realize that you're really close to having this bike ready to run, despite all the other cosmetic parts that aren't quite there yet. You know, we've got our driveline hooked up, we've got our controls hooked up, a little bit of fuel and some spark. This thing would be ready to operate. Okay, now let's get to bolting some sheet metal. I think. What were we on? We were on car building update, throttle cables, bars overview. Ready? We are. We're ready for sheet metal. Number one, the oil tank. You don't get to see those yet. So there's an absolute ton of parts on these motorcycles, especially the early models, that are 1 or 2 or 3 years only. All of those details are what make restorations accurate. It's what you know, separates one bike from another. So one of the details on this particular example, 1936 only oil tank. Now 36 only oil tank, this is the moto nerd stuff that we absolutely geek out about. You've got that early oil cap that goes edge to edge. It's embossed on the top rather than stamped and welded. You've got banjo fittings, and the way you see that 36 oil tank from the other style oil tanks, 36 has the banjo fitting in the back, and 37 they actually put the fitting down here where the drain's at, which actually proved troublesome. They only did that 1 year only. 36 banjo fittings and the feed line right there in the back. So we're gonna go ahead and get this bolted in. Yep, spacer. I want to go ahead and get the coil bolted up. All right, we've got our coil outfitted, set up, Parkerized clamps, all OEM type stuff. Yeah. After the coil, I think we can move on to exhaust. We coil mounted, oil tank installed. I bet it looks completely different from that side of the bike now with that oil tank in there. Ooh, it looks good. Oh man, you can't beat a 36 knucklehead oil tank. Still got to tighten that oil tank up to where this comes up here, but we're looking like we're in pretty good shape. I'm not going to tighten that down until we get that rear fender in. So we're ready for exhaust, other than I want to install this brake light switch or else we'll never get to it around the exhaust. And the brake light switch is one of the coolest pieces. It's actually one of the hardest pieces to find of this era motorcycle, period. Commonly swapped out, and I don't know exactly why that is. Okay, so this guy hangs in right there. Bada bing, bada boom. Slides back and forth based on the adjustment of your transmission. It also allows us to kind of contour this thing right around the exhaust pipe. We're ready for the pipes. One of my favorite parts and one of the toughest parts if everything's not up to snuff and perfect. So we decided to run chrome Harley-Davidson exhaust pipes. Really, really cool stuff. We're gonna do some mock fitting and then take it back off and install some of the special pieces. All right, I think we're in there. Feels good. All right, onto the squish pipe. Let's see if we can squeeze that bad boy in. We got our bolt down here. When you get done with a motorcycle exhaust, you ought to be able to stand on it. I mean, it's got to be tough. Otherwise, it's gonna rattle loose, period. So the more points you can anchor, the better. Nice, that looks really good. That's a well-made pipe. Now, back to the front. This is just a test fit. Oh, beautiful. That slides up maybe even a little too nicely. And okay, so that means I think I'm ready for a clamp. Slide that bad boy up. Oh yes, that's what we like to see. Ah man, it feels real nice. Oh man, this thing is gonna look so good with some exhaust and some flow boats. In fact, I do have a nice extra touch for this. Been waiting to use this. Harley-Davidson exhaust shield. I think they only used this maybe 1936 to 38. Dimpled with the Harley-Davidson logo there. Maybe not logo, maybe those are just letters. You get what I'm saying. All right, Steve, so little bit of wiggling and wobbling, and I think we'll get this sucker mounted the way that it should be mounted. We got the exhaust polished up. Ooh, it fit really nice that time. That was all right. Okay, yep. We're gonna hang this temporarily while we get the front of it buttoned. Gosh, you can't beat a chrome exhaust, you know? So, guys, we have made some huge progress today. This bike is pretty much ready for the next steps. So, we got here, get those ready to be tightened down and get these floorboards mounted. Oh, this is when the bikes start to look like real motorcycles. Where'd they go? Oh yeah, boom. Okay, here we go. Floorboards and brake pedal. Okay, underneath one. Oh my gosh, throttle's working, spark advance working. Oil tank's in. Exhaust is hooked up and solid as a rock. Oh, it looks so good. Man, no kidding though. Chrome exhaust, definitely the way to go. I run black exhaust on a lot of my bikes. I think that's gonna be changing. Fingerprints to a minimum. I'm impressed. It really is shaping up. It's looking good. I still haven't forgotten about those gas tanks under that tarp. And we thought the fenders were gonna show up, so we can't do the gas tanks today. We're gonna keep you guys waiting. Thanks for tuning in. I mean, huge progress today. We made some incredible moves. This is about this close to being able to fire it up. So next time we're with you, we're gonna be installing fenders, gas tanks, hooking up all the wiring, fuel lines, oil lines, rear chain, and there's not a lot left after that, guys. Small checklist of stuff, outer primary cover, couple spark plugs. Remember, guys, you can win this motorcycle. Make sure you get tickets. Drawing is coming up. We're gonna be giving this motorcycle away to one lucky winner. Hopefully, he or she will be riding it home right here from Wheels Through Time. So thanks for tuning in. We'll catch up with you next time.